I'm attorney Ahmad Yaxan from the American Dream Law Office. I created the American Dream Law Office more than 10 years ago to help clients reach their American dream. And today, we're going to be speaking about one of the things that help you get that American dream, especially if you come here on a temporary visa and you want to switch to a more permanent option that allows you to work in the United States. The H-1B visa is one of the most competitive visas for skilled workers. Today, I'll walk you through how it works, the lottery system, and how to improve your chances of approval. Talking about the H-1B visa today, it reminds me of when I was doing my H-1B process. I had just graduated from law school with my LLM in international law and trying to figure out how to stay in the United States because of the economic slowdown that was happening in 2010. We had a recession or a depression in the United States economically. The numbers of visas were rolling from year to year. So I lucked out by being able to apply for a visa from the year prior to me graduating. Unfortunately, that option is not existent anymore for a lot of H-1B applicants. And a lot of applicants have to apply two, three, and sometimes five times for the lottery to be selected to get an H-1B visa. And I will explain what the lottery is later in this podcast episode. First, we'll start by what is the H-1B visa? The H-1B visa is workers who are in specialized fields like IT, finance, and engineering. To qualify, you must have a job offer from a U.S. employer and a bachelor's degree or higher. It's not only that you have to have a bachelor's degree or a master's degree, you also have to qualify for a specialty job, which means that the job that you are applying for under the H-1B has to require a bachelor's degree. And that is what makes it a specialty occupation. The specialty occupation requirement is crucial to getting an H-1B visa. And a lot of employers fall into the trap of hiring someone for a marketing job that honestly does not require a bachelor's degree, or an administrative job that doesn't require a bachelor's degree. So, consulting with an immigration attorney as an employer will be crucial for you to be able to apply for an H-1B successfully for one of your employees. The application process starts by filing Form I-129, which is the form that is used for all work-based immigration processes in the United States for temporary visas. But before we dive into that, I would like to speak to you about why the H-1B visa is very popular among professionals. The H-1B visa is for 6 years and with an extension option, which I will discuss in a second. But it's popular because it's the way for permanent residence for a lot of people. Like I said, I was on my H-1B visa. I was able to apply for it after receiving my Juris Doctorate and my LLM. And I used my H-1B visa as a stepping stone to permanent residence. That is why a lot of people like it. It also allows you to work and go to school, and it allows your spouse and children to be in status here in the United States, paving the way to you becoming a permanent resident through one of the preference categories, through a labor certification or an exception to the labor certification requirement. That's why the visa is very popular with professionals like myself. In order to qualify for the visa, you have to be one of the lucky recipients of one of the 85,000 visas that Congress has allocated for the H-1B process. Unfortunately, that 85,000 visa allotment is not enough, and we get about 400 to 500,000 lottery petitions to be able to actually get those. So those numbers are really oversubscribed. As I said earlier, a lot of my clients sometimes have to wait 2 or 3 times to be able to pick through the lottery. And unfortunately, that is not an option for a lot of people because by then they will be out of status. So a lot of my clients resort to keep going to school, for example, for more bachelor's or master's programs for them to be able to stay in the United States and be picked in the visa lottery. Going back to the 85,000 visa allotment, it's 65,000 visas for people who only hold bachelor's degrees or apply in the lottery only under the bachelor's degree requirement. The remaining 20,000 visas are for people who are holders of master's degrees or higher. So your chances of getting picked for a visa if you have a bachelor's degree is low, and if you have a master's degree, you will be at an advantage if you are going under the 20,000 visas that are exclusive for people with master's degrees. So that's why Congress put that allotment for the 20,000 visas for holders of master's degrees. How do you apply to be in the lottery? You might be thinking, how does someone apply to be in the lottery? You apply by going, the lottery for this upcoming year has started on the March 7th and it will stop on the 18th. And your employer has to register for a profile and submit a submission for you to be in the lottery program, which means they have to put your name, your passport number, and the expiration date of your passport for you to be able to be part of the lottery. Sometimes the 85,000 number does not run out in the first lottery submission, so the government resorts to a second lottery processing to see if other people who are in the lottery, who registered for the lottery, can be get picked up. Those several secondary lotteries have happened in the last 2 or 3 years because a lot of people didn't qualify. If you are in the United States, you might be able to apply for the H-1B and you might be able to change your status. But one important thing about the H-1B is that it does not start until October 1st. So a lot of people will fall, they will have a gap between graduating from college and being able to start under the H-1B on October 1st. So there is something in the law called the cap gap, which allows F1 students to change their status and get an extension until that October date when they start that H-1B status in the United States. There is also an extension, a status provision. So you can extend your status in the United States. If you are already on an H-1B, you can apply and extend your status, especially because H-1B petitions only are good only for 2 to 3 years initially. So you will be able to use these days to extend your status. And anytime in the United States or anytime outside the United States that the H-1B holder spends outside the United States can be recaptured down the road if they are applying for their I-140 and their labor certification for them to be able to get a green card. You, as I said earlier, you will be able to extend your status on 2 years or 3 years increments in the United States or outside the United States on the H-1B status. If you leave the United States, you will have to go through what's called among attorneys stamping, meaning that you have to go to the consulate and get your visa stamped on your passport. If you are here in the United States on an extension of status or a change of status, you do not have to leave the country and get the stamping done in the consulate in your country or a third country if you have to go somewhere and you're not able to go to your country. But if you're here in the United States, as long as you're in status, you do not have to get it stamped because we don't have a consulate in the United States that will allow you to get a stamp on your passport. But once you leave the country, you are taking a risk of getting that stamped and getting denied that extension by leaving the country and not staying in the United States. So please, please be cognizant of that fact if you're trying to go outside the United States for you to get stamped. You can also change employers under the H-1B process, meaning that if you are in H-1B status right now and you got a better offer from another employer or an offer that's more attractive because it has a promise of applying for permanent residence, you can actually port your H-1B from your employer, your current employer, to another employer, which is really nice because you can port it and start working for the new employer as soon as USCIS receives your application. So on the date of that portability, you can literally start working for the new employer. This is what makes the H-1B very attractive and a very attractive option for a lot of people here in the United States. Unfortunately, Congress has limited it to only 85,000 visas, and those 85,000 visas, as I said, run out very quickly. So if you are trying to apply for an H-1B, reach out to my office. Visit my website at americandreamlawoffice.com for a strategy session.